Hi y'all, it's Kimberly here. Thank you for coming to my channel. Well, my intro is not working because I bought a new phone, and when I transferred all my stuff over, the intro didn't come over. A lot of my stuff didn't transfer over to my phone, and I'm not very tech. I'm tech challenged, so I'm trying to work on that. I'm probably gonna make a new intro, start over with something different. I like the intro, but the music is a little annoying. I think maybe I'll try something else. I don't know. But today, I was going to talk about the San Antonio dog attack, the fatal attack that happened last week. I talked a little bit about it last night on the video. That's why it took me so long to try and upload that video. I was trying to get the intro to, I don't know, I couldn't get the file to come over, transfer over, I don't know, but I got the outro to come over, but anyway, I'm going to probably work on that tonight, looking at some other, maybe something else, I don't know. But back to that dog attack in San Antonio, Texas. It was a fatal dog attack. Christian Moreno is the guy that owned the dogs. There were 3 dogs, King, Snow, and Legend. I actually believe that it was just 2 of them. They own 3 dogs, and they randomly get out of the fence. They've been terrorizing the neighborhood from what I gather. I was looking at a lot of different reports and things. And I believe only 2 of them were involved in the fatal attack, King and Snow, these 2 dogs. The gentleman that was attacked was 81 years old, Ramon Najera, and his wife, Jaunita. They were visiting a friend, or I believe next door, and he got out of his car. The fence was either down or part of it was broken. Something happened some way they got out of the fence. The girlfriend claims that the dogs were harnessed and tethered and, chained up and all this behind a gate that had a U-lock, a U-bolt lock. If you've ever seen one of those, very heavy duty. But somehow it wasn't clear that the lock was either on it or off it. She wasn't really clear about it, or claiming that it was, but for some reason, somehow it wasn't there, or I believe that they forgot it or something, I don't know. But the dogs got out of the fence and attacked this older gentleman, causing his death. I feel horrible for the family, for this family. Suffering something like that is so traumatic and just so scary. It's really scary. I've talked about how I own pit bulls. I've owned them for almost 40 years. And I love these dogs. I think they're the best breed of dog that I've ever owned. I've owned a lot of different breed dogs. They just have qualities that if you are very attentive to them, you take care of them, if you form a very good bond with them, they're the most loving and the most loyal dogs you'll ever own. And they're usually Velcro dogs or sticky dogs. These dogs, the girlfriend was saying, her name is Abeline Schneider, and I believe that was her maiden name, but I'm not real sure if she was actually married or common law married to this Christian Moreno. In Texas, we have common law marriage. If you live together for more than 6 months in Texas, you're considered common law married. And she was claiming that the dogs were getting more and more vicious, more and more uncontrollable, and she actually wanted to get rid of the dogs. And the guy, Christian Moreno, I believe he ended up somehow talking them into keeping them, or either the kids wanted the dogs around, something that wasn't really clear. And the dogs had been accused of other dog bites, several different cases of dog bites. Even a month ago, one of the dogs bit somebody, and Animal Care Services, ACS, picked the dogs up, but they returned the dogs. And I kind of have an issue with this, especially after this many times. I feel like that's really horribly irresponsible for public policy. Even though I'm a dog lover and I love this breed of dogs, I think it's really irresponsible that they return the dogs. I mean, after 3 or 4 times, I think that's too much. And I've owned these dogs, so I've learned a lot about them, and I've learned through handling dogs this big and this with certain types of character traits. And dogs do have their own genetic traits. There's sight hounds, there's bloodhounds, there's dogs that are used for herding, that are instinctively do these types of things. And this breed of dog was developed and was used for fighting and for a very long time. And a lot of dogs in the past, in their ancestral history, were also used for fighting. But they were bred out of it. They were not continued into the arena, fighting arena, by backyard breeding and bad practices in breeding like the pit bulls are today. And that's, it's heartbreaking to me. It infuriates me so much. And I've actually been to a backyard breeder. I had a dog that passed away, an English bulldog, and I had a little bit of depression from that. And a few months later, I decided I wanted to get another dog. And it was more of an impulse out of my heartbreak. And I did get another dog, and I got her in the pandemic. I talked about it in the last video. And it has been hard to socialize her during that time because everything was shut down. Nobody wanted, no contact with anybody. And so I did the best I could with her. And, being isolated like that for a year and a half, I did finally was able to take her to the park because I was like, I've got to get this dog out. I've got to let her see other people, I would take her out in the front yard all the time so she could see, my neighbors and be used to car sounds and other dogs and stuff like that. And that's the most that I could do. And then I started finally taking her to a public park where I live. And there wasn't, we weren't really supposed to gather in huge gatherings and whatever. So there were like small little, singular groups or just a few people every once in a while that would come to the park. And so I did too. I decided, well, I guess it's okay to do that. And so I would bring her and she would see people, see dogs, but, we weren't close and we weren't, there were no kids to pet her because usually when I take my dogs places, I let them be socialized. And one of the biggest ways I do that is when they're puppies, I let kids pet them. I let them see, kids, how loving and, how much fun, the kids are holding them and petting them and getting them used to smaller humans, because some dogs feel dominant over size. So if there's small children, and sometimes a dog will become, they know the difference between your size, between an adult human and a child human. Dogs are very smart and very perceptive. And I just didn't get that opportunity to do that. And it's been, a struggle, dealing with her now. And like I say, I'm not a good dog trainer. I'm more of a dog spoiler. But these dogs were allegedly trained with meat. And that is probably the most irresponsible and stupidest thing you could do ever. That's been rumored, and I did see it on several different reports. I'm not sure if it's really true or not, so just taking that with, if that's absolutely true, I don't know. But I did find several reports talking about that, and that's probably the worst, most incriminating thing ever. And Christian Moreno has been arrested. He's been charged with felonies, and his girlfriend, Abeline Schneider, or wife, was also arrested too. She was arrested, I think, on Wednesday. And the guy was arrested, I think, on the same day, or hours later, after this fatal attack happened. And he's been charged with dangerous dog attack causing death and criminal neglect causing injury to an elderly person. And these are very serious charges. He could go to prison for a very long time. And if you have one of these dogs, it is your responsibility. You are responsible for their behavior and the things that they do. His girlfriend has made a statement saying that she was very tearful and had, you know, a lot of, I'm not sure if I'm going to say remorse, but she seemed to be very, very upset and very distraught that this incident happened. But she kept saying that her boyfriend or her husband was not responsible. And to me, that is the thing that shows little remorse. You have to have responsibility if your dog does this, especially in the state of Texas, because dogs are considered property. You have to have, you know, knowledge of what they're doing, where they're at. You own these dogs. You are they are in your care and custody. You have to be responsible, 100% responsible for them. So that statement that she made, I don't agree with. And that, to me, just alludes to the fact of being in denial, of, you know, wanting to really be a good, responsible owner to dogs like this. Because these dogs can be deadly, and I hate even putting this on this breed of dog, but with the history that these dogs have and the irresponsible ownership that a lot of people have put upon these dogs, and then claiming no responsibility. And it's just another dog attack with no responsibility. Nobody wanted to take responsibility for it. And it just, that infuriates me. It really does, because I absolutely love these dogs. And these dogs are very smart, very loving, and very athletic, very agile. And to have a dog like that and not be responsible for it, you just basically shouldn't have these dogs if you can't take responsibility for them. And I think the law concerning returning the dogs after an attack, I think that needs to be looked into, because you can't let a dog like this, or any, you know, it's not just this breed. There's also German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Dobermans, various other breeds that are kind of put into this dangerous dog category. And I've talked about it last night on my other video, where I've been looking for another house, and I have been running into this issue with the pit bull thing. I've only had one housing unit that said that they don't care what breed I have, or what, there's no restrictions, no weight restriction, no size restriction or breed restriction. So that was very unusual. It's a little out of my price range. I might be able to actually do it. I don't know. But I'm having to deal with that and be denied because of my dogs being pit bulls. I ask, you know, at first, are dogs allowed? And some of them will say no. And then I just go on to another one. They say yes. And then I bring up the fact that I have pit bulls, and immediately either they'll, oh, well, do you have a dangerous dog policy? Or I'll have to check with the owner. And usually I get denied, or I've been denied from all the ones from the owners once they have the final say over it. And I have not, I will never take out a dangerous dog policy on my dogs, because number one, my dogs have never bit anybody. Number two, that does a disservice to the people who own the dogs. It completely covers the other party, the homeowner or the leasing agent or whatever. Yeah, it works in their favor really great. But as far as being the owner, and you put a dangerous dog policy on your dog that has never bit anybody, or even if they have bit somebody, it shows you have a history of owning a dangerous dog policy. It just memorializes it in a contract that you own a dangerous dog, so much so that you had to get an insurance policy. And I don't think that that's a good financial move. Even not having the insurance too, you know, you could be sued still for that, anything else. But to me, I don't agree with it. And I've been asked repeatedly, even in the past, and I tell them no, because that puts me in a lot of liability. That shows that, well, you consider your dog so dangerous that you decided to put an insurance policy against them. I'm not going to do that. My dogs are indoor dogs. They rarely stay outside unless, well, the fence that I have is reinforced. I dug a foot deep trench and buried a chain link fence. You know, I've really blocked off every possible little, I have bolted up the gate, everything. And I think with a lot of people, they don't take into account, you know, these dogs can be very, very smart about, you know, trying to escape, and they're escape artists, and they are very strong physically. And their physicality is like one of the things that once they latch onto something, it's very hard, and it's, you know, it's a scary experience trying to get one of these dogs to get their mouth open. I literally beat my dog on the head when this happened to me. The one time that he did bust out of the fence, and it took every ounce of strength that I had, and I'm not a big person, I'm 5'3", and trying to pry his mouth open, I really couldn't do it. I think I squeezed his balls. I can't remember. There's several things that I did. You know, there's several things that you can do. And I did put my hands in his mouth and try to pry it open. I think I did, you know, I did everything I could because I didn't want this to be a horrible incident. And he didn't go after the woman, but he did go after the other dog. So a lot of these dogs are territorial, and they're dominant over their land and their area. And especially if they're allowed to get out, they think that they own the area that they're roaming around. So they get in that mindset and instinctually will fend off other, you know, interlopers into their territory. Or a lot of dogs, if they're not people friendly, you know, they may go after people, or either dogs or people. It's, you know, some are very much people friendly, but they're not friendly with other dogs. So, you know, you have to be careful of what kind of dog you have. You have to assess the behavior of that dog. You have to make sure their space is super secure. And if those dogs were, she said that the dogs were harnessed and chained up and all this stuff, but they had no harnesses on when the police got there. There was the gate was open. There was no lock on it. Just, I don't know. I think it was just a very lax type of behavior that the owners had towards these dogs. And especially if they knew and they were talking about getting rid of them, this even proves, you know, further neglect of responsibility for the dogs. Maybe not neglecting the dogs, you know, themselves. Maybe they had food, water, and were, you know, taken care of. But they have a public responsibility when you have something this dangerous to make sure that they are contained and that they do not get loose, that you have thought of every single thing. She said her husband did everything by the book. Well, you know, apparently he was reading the wrong book or something. I don't know. And the possibility in the future that there's going to be more and more dog attacks, I think this is so detrimental to the breed. And there is the BSL, the breed-specific legislation that a lot of states and cities have. Some of them are lifting that, but with all the dog attacks that are happening, I don't know if that's going to cause further legislation to be put forth, or, you know, you can't keep arguing for, oh, these are the most loving, most sweetest dogs in the world, and have numerous dog attacks, fatal dog attacks by this breed, and just blame it on other issues, other problems, instead of, you know, taking responsibility that it's your fault. And whether you want one of these dogs or not, any other dog that you want that is big, that may have the ability to overpower a human. Rottweilers are bigger than pit bulls typically, but now a lot of typically large pit bulls are being bred to Mastiffs, Great Danes, and other large dogs. So the dog breed is not, they're pit bull mixes, and they're being mixed with larger, typically larger dogs to make the pit bull larger. They're infusing, larger blood lines into smaller pit bull bloodlines to make them large. And that's also an issue if they become aggressive and you can't physically control them. And I've had issues with my neighbors. They own 4 or 5 large pit bulls, bigger than my dog. And they've come over to my property, and they are not friendly, and they become territorial. And I've had several issues with them. I've had to call the police because they're not containing their dogs. And the thought that one of them would have attacked me, it's terrifying to me. And when I have to go outside, I have a small 3-4 pound little Chiweenie, and she loves to go run around the front yard, and I have to look over there and make sure their dogs are not out. They finally put up a fence to block it off. There used to be an open fence, and these dogs would roam around, and they weigh over 100 pounds, much bigger than my dog. And I've almost been mauled a couple of times by pit bulls also. I've been just inches away from being mauled. I've had to stand still and let a strange, look like a agitated pit bull sniff the back of my leg and just stand there and just hope that he didn't start attacking me. And it's terrifying. It's horrifying. And I went to take the trash out one time, and there was a pit bull that was jumping a 4-foot chain link fence, and he was growling and making some of the weirdest sounds, and he wasn't really loud. He wasn't barking at me. And that is a behavior that is a stalking behavior. If a dog typically has a low growl or no growl at all, they're not scared of you. They're stalking you like prey. And that is a dangerous, dangerous trait in a dog. Most dogs will bark at you because they're scared and they want you to go away. They are warning you. But a dog that doesn't warn you and keeps creeping up to you, that's a stalking dog. And that is not a good, that is one of the most dangerous behaviors in a dog that can exist. And I'm lucky that I saw this dog when I heard a weird noise, and I turned, and my heart just dropped. It was terrifying. He was a huge, one of the big, huge pit bulls, and I had to slowly walk backwards. I was probably, 6 or 8 feet from my back fence. I was taking out the trash, and I barely made it into the gate before he came up to the gate and started sniffing and kind of growling, and I just locked the gate and ran back into my house. And I called the animal control, and they argued with me that it was something for the police to handle. I called the police, and they argued that, no, you need to call animal control. That is their specialty. And so it went back and forth, and it was idiotic, and I was very upset, I was saying things like, well, maybe some of y'all should be fired, or y'all don't know how to handle this. But it was starting to become a problem, and I thought because they handle dogs that they would know how to handle this, but it was becoming such a problem because these dogs are big, strong, and very muscular. And, I think a lot of cities are struggling with that, what to do, and I think if you're a police officer or some kind of state employee that has to handle something like that, it can be, it's very scary. They know, if they've ever been to the scene of a dog attack, then they know how dangerous and how horrible it can be, what the outcome can be. And one time I did have to call the police or the sheriff on a dog that was loose, that was terrorizing one of my little dogs. When I would take him out, I lived in this little apartment area, and I would take the dog outside to kind of do his business somewhere on the grass, and immediately would be attacked by this big, huge, it was a mixed breed dog, not a pit bull. It was a chow, some other chow lab mix or something like that. And when I when the police did show up, he kind of was in the frame of mind, well, there's nothing we can really do about it, nothing, blah, blah, this and that, just not very helpful. And then I said, he's right behind you, and that cop put his gun on his hand and turned so quick. You know, when it was pointed towards him, you know, it was a different story, you know, and I told him, see, that's how I feel. You know, and he immediately called animal control, and they rounded the dog up and took the dog away. And unfortunately, they did put that dog down because the people were so irresponsible. They just kept letting it run around, and it became super territorial. It was trying to bite people and trying to attack other dogs, and that's what you get when you don't keep your dog contained and when you're not responsible. And the death of the dog is what is going to happen, and possibly other breed bans will happen. And it's killing me. It's heartbreaking to me because I have owned these dogs for many, many years. And none of mine have ever bit anybody. My Chihuahuas have bit me more than... I've never been bit by any of my pit bulls, and I've never had any of them growl at me or be aggressive to me, none whatsoever. But had I let them be territorial, running loose, you know, getting out a lot, yeah, the situation would be much worse. You know, I could be charged with something, you know, and thank goodness, you know, that I've been very responsible with these dogs. And the fact that he is not responsible for these dogs, you know, that's proof that he shouldn't have had these dogs to begin with. Okay, that's my opinion. That's what I think. Thank you all, and y'all have a good night.